Hey everybody, my name is Jordan Piper and I'm the discipleship leader here at RiverLake Church. I'm so honored to be with you all again as we're once again doing our Voices series. Last year the series came out at an amazing time. We were in the middle of a pandemic. Church was online, our kids were going to school online, we couldn't go in restaurants, we were having to wear masks everywhere, and just everything was just thrown off kilter. And the series came and we got to hear about verses and how they changed people's lives and what God had spoke to them in those moments, and it helped me to stay connected to God in a moment that I was really starting to kind of come unconnected from everything that I knew. And this year we get to talk about times that God showed up in our lives. And for me, that was in the middle of the pandemic. 2020 was a rough starting year for me. Financially, we had some things that were going on. And if you've heard me on stage before, you've heard me talk about how I've struggled with finances from decisions that I made in my past. And what I hope you take from today is that God honors our decisions. And so, like I said, financially had been struggling because we had to replace our HVAC. But God had put us in a point that we were given faithfully, but those things were still coming up. And the Israel trip was a big topic at the time, and me and my wife wanted to go, but we knew that with what God had done in our lives, that it wasn't the right decision because we were given faithfully, and we were also being able to pay off debt from those choices in our past. So we were like, we just can't financially do this right now. And it wasn't 30 minutes later, an opportunity came for us to have a second job in the evenings to make enough money that would actually pay for the trip for us. So we were like, yay. This is God. God's saying, hey, it's time for you to go. Let's do this. So we put our down payment on it, and that was that. And then about 3 weeks went by, and there was just a disconnect in us. We weren't at each other's throats or arguing, but there was just a rift there that we just couldn't explain. And we sat down and talked about it, and what it was is it all came back to the trip. And we decided that that wasn't the move for us. We had struggled financially before because of decisions that we had made that didn't align with God and what He had in store for our lives. And God was testing us in this moment, and we realized that wasn't the move for us. So we had gotten our refund back of our deposit, and we didn't get it all back. So there was consequences to that mistake that we made, but we got realigned with God, and God sees unforeseen circumstances. He sees things coming that we do not see with our human minds. That's when we got to get aligned with Him so we can see what's coming in the future. Because the same week that we canceled the trip, our water heater went out. Had to replace that. Went a month later, our roof started leaking, and we had to replace our roof. So in the first half of 2020, we had to replace an HVAC system, had to replace a water heater, and had to replace a roof. But thanks to God giving us that financial opportunity, we were able to pay all that off. And none of that is sitting there in debt for us. And like I said, God saw those things coming and gave us that financial opportunity, but we had fell back into our old ways, and we were like, we're going to take this money and we're going to go on a trip and not do what God's aligned us to do. And it's so easy to do that, whether you're new in your faith or you've been in your faith for 20 years. We become complacent and we forget what God can do and what happens when we get aligned with Him. And God showed it to us in this situation. And it doesn't just apply to our finances. It applies to our relationships. It applies to how we raise our kids, our job, just our everyday walk. We got to look to God and try to be aligned with Him in the decisions that we make, because we do have that free will, that discernment in our lives to take a certain path. But we need to stop and think for a minute, what would God do in this moment? What would God want me to do in this moment? Because when we line up with Him, it's crazy what happens. I've talked about my finances and how I used to think, I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to give, not 10%. And God blessed every time that we faithfully gave. And we're in that now, and we see that in our finances and what He was able to do with us during the pandemic. We see what He's doing with us now. And we've seen Him do that in so many other areas of our life because we aligned our focus with His. And I hope you all get that from this message, is that God does that. God honors our decisions. And, no matter where you're struggling at, my hope and my prayer for you is that you focus on God and focus on what God wants for your life, and that you all line everything up together. I thank you all for being with me today. God bless.